This is Rat Pack Radio, the internet radio station that brings you everything from the top hits of music.
Hey guys, this is Bruno Mars.
Hey, it's only, come on, put your pinky rings up to the moon.
To Sports Talk Radio.
With the first pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Jared Goff, quarterback, California.
We are here for you, WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Come join the pack.
You're listening to WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Come join the pack. You're listening to Rat Pack Sports Show on WRPR Rat Pack Radio.
Blue, you're my boy! A genius. A man who has a reputation to be the best at what he does.
You see, a man has to realize his limitations. You don't know me, and you don't know what I'm capable of.
That was a heck of an effort.
This house is a prison in the galaxy of this sucks.
You're
Battle is over when I say it is over. I will massacre you.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Are you not entertained?
I'd say in a given week, I probably only do about 15 minutes of real, actual work.
That's how I roll. Offensive foul!
Hello? You play to win the game.
There's a drive! Way back! It could be! Yeah!
This is my favorite part coming up right now.
Watch your tongue or have it cut from your head. Save your
All right. Rat Pack Sports Show. We are back. We are live Wednesday night, ratpacksports.com. Streaming on the Rat Pack Radio WRPR app and also on TuneIn as well. We're going to bring you the best edge in sports talk and entertainment on this Wednesday night. And we're going to have a good show, man. And we're going to have Nicholas Lang on with us. William Graves will be joining us as well. And we will be talking the Super Bowl. We'll be talking NBA as well. Just got some breaking news right before the show on the major trade that's getting ready to go down here any minute. Just waiting, I guess, on the approval of the NBA, but nonetheless, we saw this kind of coming. So basically, Lakers are finalizing the deal, and I'll get more into this deal here. As we go on in the show, we should have Nikki Buckets on with us. We'll talk about this deal, and then I'm going to get into some video that I've seen from last night's ceremonies that happened with LeBron James becoming a single highest scorer in the history of the league. So this is what we're going to do. But this trade here, and this is 5 minutes ago on ESPN on Twitter, Lakers are finalizing the deal to land D'Angelo Russell. Now, D'Angelo Russell was a Laker at one point. Malik Beasley, I'm not even sure who Malik Beasley is, but Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. Jazz will be sending Mike Conley and picks to the Timberwolves, while Russell Westbrook and a lightly protected 2027 LA first-round pick is headed to the Jazz. So, again, Lakers, with what little picks they have, they've traded them away. So, you're mortgaging your future, and how much better do you get with D'Angelo Russell? Again, remember, D'Angelo Russell is a kind of a scoring point. So, he needs the ball in his hands to be effective. And with the offense that the Lakers run, we'll see how that works. But I'm going to talk to Nicky Buckets and get his opinion on this trade. And then we'll probably talk about the scoring record for a little bit. I don't really have much to say about it. I got a different opinion. So, how I watched the game and grew up playing the game myself, and how I coach the game is against a lot of the way the game is played today. So, these records, and I've kind of said the same thing about the NFL as far as records. We put too much stock into these records being broken in today's game, when in the NFL you've gotten rid of the physical play. And the only thing that hurts when you eliminate the physical play from a football standpoint is the defense. The offense really don't have any limitations when you start changing the rules to, quote unquote, protect the players and legislate the hard hitting out of the game. Okay, so Trent Dilfer made some comments here. I watched the Baltimore Ravens 30 for 30 a few days back, I think over the weekend, and that was great TV. I don't really watch Hard Knocks, but if I could, I probably would go back and watch the 2001 edition of Hard Knocks, because the Baltimore Ravens 30 for 30, that looked like some fun stuff, what they was going through in the training camp. But Trent Dilfer, which I thought was probably one of the best ESPN, NFL personalities, no longer working for him. They got rid of him a few years back, and for as much as we as Bucs fans, because Trent Dilfer, his worst years was with the Buccaneers, so as much as we clown him for his play on the field, the dude is actually very from when it comes to an intellectual standpoint, talking about the game and commentating on the game, he's right up there. But he made a statement that I agree with when it comes to today's player versus the player he played with, the guys he played with from an offensive standpoint. And his point was this. As much as I love, Peyton, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and some of those other guys, they're great players, but it is far too easy to play the quarterback position in this league. So he doesn't get caught up in all the hoopla with records being broken, because this is not the game that him, or anyone else around our age or older grew up loving. From a defensive standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to play this game. So records will be broken, and that's just the way it's going to be because it's just too easy in this league to do anything on the offensive side of the ball. And this has been my argument for the better part of probably about 5 to 8 years, probably more than since we've been on the air on the Rat Pack Sports Show. And a lot of people don't really understand where I'm coming from, or they just say, "Oh, you're just hating." Well, no, it is true. You know, these wide receiver records, man, it's too easy. It's too easy. You can't hit a dude going across the middle. You can't, if you have the defenseless receiver rule, which I think is complete bullcrap, because at the end of the day, the job of the defense is to keep the offense from scoring, from catching the ball, and causing fumbles. That's the point of the defense. So if you want to put in this defenseless receiver rule, to me, a defenseless receiver is somebody that does not have the ball in their hands, and cheap shot them, crack back, whatever the case may be. But if he's getting the ball thrown to him and that ball touches his hands, it should be fair game. And that is not the way of the league. So guess what? The middle of the field is just wide open. You don't want to know why these slot receivers all of a sudden has become a prime position? That is why. Because these guys are not afraid to get hit going across the middle because it's a 15-yard penalty. And now you could go to the booth and call a dude for targeting and get them ejected from the game. So I don't want to hear, and I have some favorite receivers in this league, but they're not the flashy, down the field, spread the ball receivers. These are receivers that grind, guys like, Chris Godwin, Diggs, Adams, these guys, they run the whole route tree from the inside to the outside, and they get hit, they get up, then they go right back across the middle. A.J. Brown, he's one of those raw, do everything type of wide receivers. There's not a whole lot of those guys are scattered around the league anymore because it's just not. So I appreciate when I see guys like that. That is why Chris Godwin, at this point in his career, is considered one of the top all-around wide receivers in the game because of the work that he does, going across the middle. That is just, why am I watching CNN? That is just the way that we are here in the game. And when I look at all-time greats, I have to factor in that. I cannot ignore that, especially from an offensive standpoint, because the reason why the offenses are so explosive in today's game is undeniably due to the changes of the rules to bend towards more offense. And that is the same exact argument that I have for basketball. The rules of the game has changed to the point where guys are not playing defense anymore. And I know people say, oh, well, back then they was clutching and grabbing and holding and doing all this and that. I say if you're going to bang down low as a big man, or if you're going to attack the basket, there's resistance. You just don't have a free lane to just, go to the basket. And if somebody just all of a sudden tries to even attempt to play defense, they call a foul and they shooting free throws. And the offensive guys, they're able to carry. They're traveling all over the place. They have the offensive foul ring around the basket, but that doesn't matter. You know, what happened to players being able to just lower their shoulders and bull and ball their way to the basket? That used to be an offensive foul, not anymore. So, you know, then they have the gather step. That's a travel, man. There's no gather step rule in college, high school, middle school, or FIBA, which is the professional league in Europe. There's no gather step. That's a travel. And yeah, you got people around here teaching this move to kids at the lower levels. They getting called for travel, and they don't understand why. And the reason why is because the NBA got their own set of rules. So you trying to tell me that today's game is better than the game of years past, when the game of years past played on the common core fundamentals of basketball, the same fundamentals everybody else in the world played with, whether you was a little kid or a professional. Everybody played by the same rules. Now, today's game, the NBA literally has changed their rules to allow extra steps, to allow people to carry the ball, to allow these. They say these players are more skilled, but how much more skilled are they? They can't. The skill trump foundation? No, that's why the most talented teams don't win championships. Because the more fundamental based and grounded teams, the teams that play team basketball, they win the championships. You can go out there and try to buy your championship at the Lakers. They tried. They got it in the bubble. But since the bubble, what they've been out of the playoffs the last two out of the 3 years, or 3 years straight, whatever the case may be. And they ain't making it this year. It doesn't matter what trade they make. So, to the people that want to wait until LeBron James breaks this record to say, oh, he's the greatest. If you had to wait this long for him to break this record to say he's the greatest, bro, the measuring stick ain't Kareem. The barometer of the greatest player in the history of the game is not the highest score in the history of the league. So you're already dead. Your argument already dead. Because that's all he may have. A few more rebounds, a few more assists, and 20 years in the league compared to Jordan, who only played, I think, 13, 14, 15 years, whatever it is. I think it's 13. And he's fourth on the scoring title list. And, even the people that played that's my age, you forget what we watched for throughout the 80s and the 90s from number 23? Do you forget the eye test? You forget the competitiveness of Michael Jordan? The sheer domination? Like, if he is on the court, you're not winning? So we just gonna go to he's the leading scorer in the history of the game. He's the best player ever. Man, he ain't even in most people's top 5. I can spill out 10 players, and I can make an argument for every single one of them to be in that top 10. In no particular order. First of all, Kobe Bryant ain't below LeBron James. Let's start off right there. The greatest Laker is Kobe. The next greatest Laker is Magic. then Kareem, in any order. But it ain't LeBron. 3 years, however many years he's been there, but he ain't compiled nothing better than what these Hall of Fame Lakers that played their whole career as a Laker. So I don't want to hear no argument of anybody saying, "Oh, can he go down as the best Laker ever?" There's zero chance he could go down as the best Laker ever. Zero. Now, if you want to go, if you want to put LeBron in your top 10, I give you that. Because at the 9, you can slide him in there if you want to. But I'm going by body of work, obviously, impact on the game. When you left the game, your impact on the game. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Time of era that you were playing. There's zero bigs in today's league. Zero. And the ones that are good, they're unstoppable. The best players right now, the two best players in the NBA right now are from Europe. And people want to talk about athletes. Oh, today's athletes, they're faster, they're stronger. Jokic ain't the number one athlete in the NBA. He's one of the slowest. Luka is one of the slowest players in the league. Why can't nobody stop them? Because they play smarter. They got better fundamentals. So the argument of today's athletes is better, I could kill that argument with those two players. Why come those two players dominating? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to just run them off real quick. No particular order. I'm going to go Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Bill Russell, Kobe, Tim Duncan, Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan. You can throw Akeem Olajuwon in there. I mean, then if you want to throw just for the show, throw LeBron in there. Magic, he's not better than he's all around player. Magic Johnson. I'm not taking him over Larry Bird. I don't care what anybody say. Go watch Larry Bird tape in his prime. Go ahead and watch it. He wasn't the best of athletes either, but you couldn't stop him. And he did it all. Rebounding, passing, scoring. He was the best shooter in the league at that time. The dude called his shot. He told everybody before the game he was going to play left-handed and scored 30 points left-handed. So if you telling me none of those guys can't play in today's game because of the athleticism, those dudes are way more polished basketball players than probably anybody playing in the league right now. You want to spread the floor. You want to spread the floor and try to get them in space? Okay. Spread the floor with them on offense and try to guard them. You're not stopping them. They might get a stop because they actually play defense. But you're not stopping them. Shaq is in the top 10 all-time scoring as a center. And you put Prime Shaq in today's league, who's stopping him? Because he could run. Shaq was an athlete. He could run the court with anybody. So who's stopping him? Like, we got to stop just, when it comes to sports, I always think about past players. No matter how good somebody is today, I'm always thinking, okay, how about the past? We cannot forget where we come from in this league and just be throwing anybody as a top player just because they're showing out in a game today that's all about showmanship and highlights. So my top 10 ain't got nobody playing today in it. And we can argue all day long. But at the end of the day, I'm young enough and I'm old enough to say I've watched most of their careers in their prime years except for Kareem, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. But those are no-brainers. Everybody else, I've had the chance to watch probably 75% of all their careers, some of them 100%. The people making the decision today, especially the fan base, some of these dudes ain't even sat down and watched highlights of these these players. They're caught up in Curry, great shooter. They're caught up in, KD, great player for today's game. You know a player that I think could fit easily in the game of the past when it was good to watch? Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, underrated. Nobody talks about those guys. Before Kawhi Leonard had all those injuries, we was talking about him as next to Scottie Pippen as one of the best two-way players to ever play the game. Paul George, same thing. You want to be up in the classification of the greats, you got to do it on both ends. You have to, because they all did it on both ends of the court. They didn't take games off. They didn't take plays off. They didn't pout when they was losing. They didn't sit on the bench after getting your record while your team out there losing. You didn't leave the bench a minute and a half before the game over with while your team losing. They didn't take days off for body maintenance. They didn't cry about playing 82 games and say we have to shorten the season because the season's just too long. You got dudes scoring regular season games look like all-star game scores from back in the 80s and the 90s. 150 points, 140 points on a nightly basis, 130 points. Dude, I'm sorry. You're not playing defense. I don't give a crap what the skill level is. If you can play defense, nobody's scoring that many points. I watch these games. You got a dude like Steph Curry that's shooting the way he do. Why you keep going underneath the screen? You never go underneath the screen of a shooter. Never. But they still doing it. You want to say, oh, you have to play all 5 positions in today's league. Everybody can play all 5 positions. There's nobody in this league that's a guard that can play the 4 or the 5. Nobody. In the real basketball terminology, nobody. If I got Shaq, Kareem, and Scottie Pippen on my team, and those are my basket protectors. Grab me. I don't care who you got in today's game. Bring me all of them. You can bring all of them. Go down there and try to guard them. Try to guard them. Try to guard Wilt Chamberlain. Try to guard them. You're not going to guard them. They're too big. They're too strong. It's not happening. So let's start with this. Oh, this player can play all 5 positions. No, there's no true 4s or 5s in today's league. And the ones that are the true 4s or 5, you can't stop them. If they're good players, you can't stop them. They cannot stop them. So I'm ranting right now because I'm a lifetime fan of the game. I don't just watch basketball. I'm a student of the game. I coach the game on the youth level, and I'm tired of hearing people talk like they know basketball. I'm not saying I'm the brightest mind in the basketball sense, but when it comes down to the eye test, you cannot ignore the eye test. You cannot ignore what I can go to YouTube right now and watch film on all these dudes and say, man, ain't nobody today doing that. And then watch the players today and say, they better. He better than this guy. Why we got these media outlets like ESPN, Fox Sports, these people making these top 10 lists, and it's full of today's players, and you just gonna kick out. You just gonna kick out players that if you was to flip flop them and bring them into today's area, I know we can't do that, but they always want to say it. So if you was to flip flop those players, bring them in today in a wide open game. Now let's not forget, in the 80s, the game was wide open. Showtime Lakers. There's a reason they call them Showtime Lakers. They was playing basketball like this in the 80s. So I'm tired of people that I know they ain't athletes. And I know they ain't played basketball. Saying that the athletes that Jordan played against, they were bums. Compared to the players today. They were bums. No, you're a bum, because at the end of the day, those players could play a wide open style brand of basketball if they wanted to, but they didn't, because the game was a team game back then. It wasn't all about isolation and shooting threes. There was the mid-range game that's obsolete in today's basketball. You got players today that'll have a wide open layup and they'll pass it out for a three-pointer. Don't tell me these dudes are better when they doing stuff like that. A three is not a high percentage shot than a layup or a dunk. If you down 3 with a minute and a half left, why the whole team shooting threes? This is everywhere, folks. This ain't a professional problem. This is everywhere. You got a minute left. You down 3. How about get the 2 as fast as you can and go down there and get a stop, come back down, get another 2, you're up now. Why are you playing for a tie? But today's players are so much. They're just so much smarter. No, this generation of basketball is dumb. To be honest with you, you dumb down the game for offense. Just watch some of these games. Just watch them. You see it all the time. All the time. Every game. It don't matter what game you watch. It doesn't. It's the way they coaching. And everybody think, oh, this is the way basketball should be played. No. From a fundamental aspect, this is the dumbest generation of basketball, period. That's why when we go, we take our teams into the Olympics, they get drug around on the court by teams half as talent because they don't know how to play team basketball. It take them a few games to adjust, and you'll never see domination like the Dream Team. You'll never see it. You'll never see it because the rest of the world done caught up to us because they play better basketball, better team basketball. That's just it. Yeah, we got the better athletes, but we don't play smart basketball. How in the world you got NBA players that's supposed to be the best basketball players in the world? It doesn't matter if LeBron James don't go or any other main stars, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James. The NBA is supposed to be the best of the best. So it shouldn't matter who you send. You should be dominating. If that was true. But you're not. So, I don't know. But my humble, honest opinion, you have some great players for the brand of basketball we play today, but as in a whole, ain't none of them in my top 10. And you give me the best 10 today, and I'll take my top 10, and they won't win the game. Because just like they claim, oh, they won't have an answer for this and that guy. Well, on the other end, you don't have an answer for this or that guy. And this group of Hall of Famers are going to play team basketball. So give me the group that's going to play team basketball. Give me them. That ISO ball don't work when you play really good teams. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just went on a rant, but we do have Mr. Nicholas Lane on the line with us, and we also have Mr. William Graves on the line with us as well. And I'm sure because this is what the Rat Pack is, they have their opinions, and what's going on, fellas?
Good evening. Good evening. It's still afternoon here where I'm at, but
hold on. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You in the paradise right now. You in Hawaii, so
I'm in paradise. Yeah, I'm in Hawaii, and there's so much NBA to talk about. And Derek, I listened to a majority of what you said, and yeah, there is a lot to talk about what you said too. Because, I have my top 10, and there's only one current player in my top 10. You know who it is.
Yep, I know who it is.
Rod player right now.
Yep.
You know who he is. He's in my top 10, but he's the only current player that's in my top 10. Not Curry, not Durant, not Kawhi. Kawhi's a Hall of Famer. Kawhi's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Kevin Durant, first ballot Hall of Famer. Stephen Curry, first ballot Hall of Famer. Kyrie Irving,
he could
barely
be
a Hall of Famer.
He could be, but I think in the last few years, Kyrie probably burnt some bridges in the media, so they're gonna hold that against him.
But he still hit that game-winning shot against the best NBA team probably ever, which is that Warriors team.
Yeah.
So he hit that game-winning shot to win a title. I mean, that goes a long way, and I think how you would rate a Hall of Fame player. But
clutch.
As a side note in your argument, I think Jokic actually can guard Shaq. I would actually say that Jokic could guard Shaq.
He probably could. I mean, he has the size. He's got the size, so that's not the problem.
If we're talking Magic Shaq,
yeah, that might be different.
Magic Shaq was unbeatable, right?
Yeah, Magic Shaq was.
Lakers Shaq, even at the apex of Lakers Shaq, I still think Jokic could still guard.
Well, I think Jokic, it'll be a back and forth because I believe offensively, Jokic could do some things, with the ball in his hand that'll give Shaq some problems, especially Lakers Shaq because he wasn't as nimble, as a Laker as he was.
Well, I mean, Jokic is not just a good three-point shooter.
He's a great shooter.
Damn good.
Yeah, he's a great shooter.
And he can hit from elbow. He can hit from the corner for a two. He can drive and hit a hook shot.
Yeah.
He can drive, do the drop step move, and get past you. He is, like, in today's game, like you said, if you say everybody's athletes in today's game are the best ever, and then you see Luka and Jokic play, yeah, your argument is invalid because those two are the best players in the league. Sorry, Giannis, but he's number 3. So I would say this is my top 10. It really hasn't changed. Last night's results doesn't freaking matter in the argument of LeBron taking over the scoring title. Like, obviously Jordan's number 1. It's undisputed. 6-0 in the finals. The greatest fourth quarter killer in the NBA history of all time. He's even better than Kobe. It's not debatable. If that guy lost, he would probably commit suicide, like how crazy Jordan was about losing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing in his vocabulary. He was the best defender during his time, even better than like an Isaiah Thomas, even better than a Gary Payton, even though Gary Payton's my favorite player ever.
Yeah.
But Jordan was the best defender during his time in the league, even better than probably Hakeem Olajuwon. I know that's kind of weird to say, but I kind of – that's where I'm going with it. But number 2 is LeBron. I know you're going to tell me I'm an idiot and all this stuff. That's fine. But he still has 4 titles.
No, I know you. We've talked a bunch of times, so I already know. You've established in your top, 10. LeBron is, he's second. That's okay. I mean, I already knew that. So and William knows the argument. I know you know the argument, but for any of the Rat Pack listeners out there, my argument of why LeBron is always going to be number 2 until he gets the 6 rings is because he doesn't have 6 rings compared to Jordan. If you're looking at the best player of your generation and you can't get to the rings the other player's best generation is, you're not the best player of all time. I'm sorry. You can have the assists record. You can have the rebounds record. You can have the steals record. You can have the amount of times you've thrown the ball into the stand and hit a dude in the forehead record. I don't care what it is. But you're not number 1. And that's where I say, even if LeBron's at age 50 and he's still in the league and he doesn't even play like Udonis Haslem and he gets his 6th title, I'll tell you, Derek, and I'll tell you then, he will be the GOAT at that time if he's still playing at 50. I'm just making this up, but I'm just saying that's kind of that's always been my argument about this topic, and that's always going to be that way. Bill Russell, number 3. Larry Bird, number 4. Magic Johnson, number 5. Kobe, number 6. I would say Shaq, number 7. Duncan, 8. Chamberlain, 9. Oscar, 10. That's been my top 10 for a long time. It hasn't changed. You could put Kobe ahead of Bird in Magic if you really want to say that Kobe's the best Laker of all time, which I think he is.
So sure, you could put Kobe at 5, fine. But I think Larry Bird is Luka back then. That's who I think Larry Bird is.
Yeah.
Maybe a better shooter than Luka. I mean, that's debatable, I guess. They're about the same, roughly. But Larry Bird's a way better free throw shooter than Luka because Luka gets a lot of volume. He's like in the low 70s for his free throw percentage. It's not very good, but if that's what we need to nitpick over Luka, oh well, I'm not worried about it. But Oscar Robertson is probably still the best point guard of all time when it comes to just who he is. Westbrook is not. Chris Paul is not even. And Kyrie Irving's not, for all the kids that think Kyrie Irving's the best point guard. No, it's not.
No.
So that's my top 10. Honestly, I do think Akeem is right. He's close. And as much as you're going to trash me over this, I actually believe that Steph Curry is knocking on the door. He's closer than you think, because if you see the Warriors this season, I mean, Curry's out for a month now. He has a knee problem. He's going to be out for almost the whole month of February, pretty much the whole month of February. So watch what the Warriors are. They're not as good with him. They're not. They have been bad this year. They've been terrible on the road. They have not. Their bench is awful. Their young players are not as good as they were. Even as of last year, they're not as good. And Curry controls almost all of that team. Draymond doesn't do it. He's like the heart and soul. He doesn't pull him out of a 15-point deficit. He can't do it. Klay Thompson has been good shooting. When he came back, he was bad, and now he's been a lot better. But he's only one dude. Jordan Poole is good, but he's not ready. I mean, you get what I'm saying. And Curry actually, I think, is more important than you believe when it comes to even ranking who's in the top 15 players of all time. I do believe Curry deserves to actually be considered in that conversation.
Yeah, I would say he deserves to be in that conversation. But when you get to from 10, to 15 after your top 5, that's pretty, and I think, listen, the dude, lights out shooter. Anytime you can shoot, you can play in any time frame. Because shooting is shooting. That's just shooting is shooting. For me, when I compare, people to all time, when I'm compiling my all time list, I always go back and think, okay, how was the game played in this era versus this one? So this era is more wide open, and the game is just, it is what it is. So from an offense, from
the 90s.
No, he could play, like I said.
Play, Curry would have still been able to dominate.
Yeah, because he can shoot.
How he can get off screen, how he can move without the ball.
Reggie Miller.
But a lot of players, except for Reggie Miller, was the only one that was successful doing it. Not a lot of players really did that. So I would say Curry could completely dominate. His style would win a title back then. It's like the Suns with the Steve Nash Suns back then, right?
Yeah.
That's how it would look if Curry played in the 90s and in the 80s kind of thing. But I would say he would have needed like a Joe Dumars with him, right? Like Isaiah Thomas was so good with Joe Dumars, where Joe Dumars was this great perimeter defender, where Steph needs that on the other side because he's not the greatest, player for guarding the other opponent.
And
right?
that's where I would say, when we're talking about greats, I'm looking at more of both sides of the court opposed to one side. Could I relinquish a little bit of scoring for a better defender that's going to still be a plus minus whatever, Curry is with his scoring, lack of defense? Yeah. So, for me.
Well, to me, that's Isaiah Thomas.
Exactly. Because people don't realize, how great Isaiah was. And people today, like I said, today's game is about, highlights, showmanship, isolation ball. Let's dribble 1,000 times and then take a shot with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, right? People don't realize how great of a ball handler Isaiah Thomas was. Like,
to me, Isaiah Thomas is Chris Paul in today's league. He's annoying. Players don't. The opposing team hates him. Refs don't like him.
Yeah.
He can score pretty well back. When Chris Paul was Chris Paul, and Isaiah Thomas wasn't a great shooter. He was pretty good getting to the rim.
He was streaky.
Chris Paul is more of a mid-range dude, kind of thing. Yeah. So, and Chris Paul was great as a defender during his prime as well. Of course, Isaiah Thomas was. Isaiah Thomas could dunk, and he was more athletic maybe in that regard, like leaping ability compared to a Chris Paul. But I think they're very similar. They're floor generals. They're everything to their team, and they controlled their games during their times. That's kind of how I would relate them.
Yeah.
I do think Isaiah Thomas is probably better than Chris Paul, but he's not as good as Oscar Robertson. That's how I would say it. I mean, it's Oscar 1, Isaiah 2, Chris Paul 3, Westbrook 4.
What about Jason
Kyrie,
Kidd?
Havlicek? I mean, I don't know. I think Kyrie does deserve to be in the conversation. I think that Westbrook obviously has to be considered. I mean, the guy has a triple-double record. I mean, that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And when Westbrook did it, he didn't do it with help.
No.
There was a couple of seasons he didn't do it without Durant when they didn't have much in OKC those years. So, I mean, yeah, he's a today player, but at the same time, he broke a record that was never going to be broken, and he did it really fast.
Yeah, he did.
In today's time frame. So, I mean, yeah, you could say Kevin Johnson on the Suns, but he didn't last very long in the league. Because his injuries were a part of it. Anthony Hardaway was part of that, injuries-wise.
Man, listen.
Gary Payton is, he's up there, right?
If Penny Hardaway didn't have those injuries, we're more than likely probably be talking about him as the best point guard to play the game.
And we would be talking about him as a top 15 player of all time.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes.
Potentially. Because he was that skilled for that time frame, and he's exactly what he's a Ben Simmons type, but
with
3
offense.
times the amount of ability compared to what Ben Simmons has, right? So, and Ben Simmons is a multiple-time All-Star in this league. But speaking of the Nets, they made a big trade a couple days ago, and on Sunday, I was on a snorkel tour, and I saw a big old turtle get out of the boat, and all of a sudden I look at my phone, and I go, oh, my God, Kyrie Irving just got traded. And I didn't want to say anything on the boat because I'm a bunch of tourists. I doubt that anybody's going to know even who he is.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I was actually surprised that he did get traded that quickly after he requested it. A, it tells you that management wanted them out as soon as possible. They were done with them. And B, that somebody was going to take that risk, and it turned out to be the Dallas Mavericks. And we have talked about the Dallas Mavericks quite a bit when it comes to, can Luka have help? Can they give him help? And Spencer Dinwiddie is not enough help. Christian Wood is not enough help. And all of a sudden, they trade for Kyrie Irving. I thought about this today before coming on. I think Kyrie Irving is like the Joker. I would say not the Dark Knight Joker. He's like Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I feel that Kyrie has all the talent in the world. He can do anything on the floor that you ask him to do. Score, defend, even pass, dribble, handle. I mean, the guy can do literally everything. Now, defense, he's all right. He's fine. He's not great, but he's okay. For today's league, he's fine. So if you have all that talent and you in every situation you have been in, you leave on the worst terms possible. Like leaving Cleveland, they couldn't get rid of him fast enough. Leaving Boston, they were never going to re-sign him. And then the situation with the Nets just became just so puzzling all the time with him. If I'm Luka, and yes, the good thing about it and the Mavericks here is that Kyrie is an unrestricted free agent. And if it just blows up in their face, they can just not re-sign him and let him move on. Now, then what did the Mavericks do? They already traded Porzingis away to get Spencer Dinwiddie. And, Porzingis is thriving in Washington. He's having a really good year. Now you have Kyrie with him. It's not exactly the greatest fit. I mean, Kyrie with Luka, I don't know. I mean, Kyrie has never shown, besides with LeBron, that he can share being the co-star with somebody. He's never really done that. He showed up James Harden throughout James Harden being in Brooklyn, and Harden's now in Philly. And him and Durant had a lot of things going on in the offseason during the COVID thing, during the anti-Semitic like on Instagram. I mean, there's multiple examples of how. Derek, do you think Kyrie Irving just wants to watch the world burn around him? Like that's kind of the analogy that I really believe about him.
I don't know.
He can do everything on the floor, and he's a great player, but I think he likes to watch the world burn around him.
I think what Kyrie is just somebody who's not like everybody else. So the things you would expect from a professional athlete, especially when the majority of them are I'm not gonna say on the same page, but they kind of like they kind of fall in line with whatever's going on, right? Kyrie Irving ain't that dude, so he's very outspoken on issues that he feels is important, and he's not afraid to speak his mind. So when you get around somebody like that, and he's a little bit different than your other superstars in the league, he's gonna get that that kind of flack from everybody. But at the end of the day, I think he just he is who he is, and he's not gonna let anybody deter him and tell him that he can't have his own his own opinion or his own thoughts, regardless of what the rest of the league is saying, or other superstar players. Some of them could be his friends. He's just not gonna go along with the flow.
He's
just
not
because.
He's not a status quo dude.
No, exactly. He's not a status. He's not a status quo or what it would say like a company player. Or he's not. He's just not gonna do that. So
he's not a company player.
Yeah.
I would say if people think that the Mavericks are closer to winning the title, they're not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I don't think
it's not going to happen. I mean, they got better.
They got rid of some good players though.
Dinwiddie. Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith is actually really good, and Dinwiddie is a lot better than he ever used to be. I mean, I think Dinwiddie is much better than he was in Washington. And it's funny because he was like an undrafted dude from Brooklyn, playing for Brooklyn back after the KG and Paul Pierce trade. And he was one of those, Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, that we talked about my early years on the show about how this is, these players are actually really good and they're underrated and never talked about. And all of a sudden, Spencer Dinwiddie's the major player for a Kyrie Irving trade. I mean, a first-round pick that's unprotected, and then 2 seconds, I believe it was. So, and they get back, Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris. We don't need to talk anything about Markieff Morris.
Yeah, he just throwing.
Shoved him last year, and
He's
and
just
he
a
missed
throw-in
like
guy.
the rest of the season. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that Shaq is this big, dominant, powerful dude, then you saw what Jokic could do to a guy with a two-hand shove. Jokic could guard Shaq for parts of his career. Derek.
Yeah.
So let's just say that. Jokic has some strength, even though it doesn't look like he is ripped, but he has strength.
No, he's a big
So,
dude.
Anyway, Markieff Morris used to be worth a first-round pick. That's what Washington paid to get him from Phoenix years ago. And now he's a throw-in. He shouldn't even be in the league almost anymore. Now he's not even worth talking about. Sorry, but I don't think this makes anything different for the Mavericks. They're good. Their third-best player is Christian Wood. Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't too consistent of a shooter. He's not bad. I like Josh Green a lot. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities for Dallas. But honestly, Dallas is a second-round team. I mean, obviously they shocked the Suns last year and got to the Western Conference Finals, but it's still not going to be enough. They don't have a lot of pieces in order to make a big trade again to get a third player, then have nothing after that. So, I mean, congratulations on Mavericks. They appeased Doncic. I don't know what team has the cojones to give a long-term contract to. I'm sorry. I know that Jokic is the Joker, but man, I just think Kyrie is very similar.
Well, I think the right owner, if there's one owner that has the cojones to, extend Kyrie out to a long-term deal, it is Mark Cuban. He's not.
But you're talking like 4 years, 150. I mean, or so to pay him.
Yeah, and I think
it's like $35 million a year almost.
Yeah, and I think the situation in Brooklyn. They tried. They tried to put their big three together and go for a run, and it just didn't work. Kyrie and Durant, they are both great players. They don't play well, off of each other.
If you give up the farm, for James Harden, and you still have Kyrie on your roster, you deserve to be in the discussion of all these articles where Kevin Durant might get traded. I'm sorry. Durant and Harden together works.
Yeah, they work.
Good
yeah.
duo. Harden is better. I mean, look at him on the Sixers this year. He's completely dominating. And for the fact that Kyrie got voted to be the starter of the All-Star game over Harden is actually hilarious because Harden's much better than him this year. It's weird, but now, yeah. Anyway, but I feel that Harden's been better in the East, and so that's why the net obviously didn't work out, right? I mean, Kyrie Irving is just he's a chemistry killer. I'm sorry, I just feel like he is.
Well,
and
it didn't work in Boston.
It deteriorated in Cleveland, even though he had LeBron with him. It's mind-boggling to me about that. Like, then LeBron goes on ESPN with Michael Wilbon and says that I wish I had Kyrie again.
Yeah.
What's so funny is Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets, didn't like Kyrie so much that he told the Lakers, I want Westbrook, Max Christie, Austin Reeves, and 2 first-round unprotected picks for you to get Kyrie. I'm sorry. If I'm the Lakers, I say no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much. I mean, if you wanted the 3 players, fine. If you wanted Westbrook, a pick, and maybe one of the players, fine. Probably do it. But all of it, you have to say no. And then the Lakers just pulled off a trade today that actually was more beneficial to them. I believe that it was. It's maybe too late because they're 5 games under 500, and the Thunder that is above them in the standings just beat them last night on LeBron's big night. Because the Thunder have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the most underrated all-star in the league, 1. 2, this is controversial, and you might think I'm crazy, but Jalen Williams on the Thunder the one that actually starts and plays every night for them, the number 12 pick in the draft in Santa Clara. I think at the end of the season, if he keeps it up, he is going to give Paulo Banchero a run for his money in Rookie of the Year. Now, Paulo Banchero, it's his to lose, and he'll probably win. Benedict Mathurin has been trashed for a while. He's been decent, okay, recently, but he doesn't do anything else but score, so he's not going to get a lot of consideration. But I think Jalen Williams, he kind of contributes all around, and the Thunder are playing him in crunch time, and the Thunder are still pretty decent this year. I think he can give Banchero a run for his money if Banchero keeps struggling from the field shooting, himself out of games sometimes, that it could be at least a discussion. But if we're talking all of that, I just feel that the Lakers just had to say no to a Kyrie deal there. But they pulled off a really good trade today. They traded Westbrook. They traded Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Jones, their 2027 first-round pick that we kept talking about how coveted it is. And the Utah Jazz just got it top 1 through 4 protected on that 2027 pick, which is a huge win for the Jazz. To get that, they can buy out Westbrook and let Westbrook sign. They're talking the Clippers, they're talking Chicago. It's, we'll see where Westbrook ends up. But the Lakers get D'Angelo Russell from the Timberwolves. They get Malik Beasley, and they get Jared Vanderbilt from the Jazz. Now, the Timberwolves get Mike Conley and 4 second-round picks and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So, overall, the Lakers kill this trade. I think it's too little too late. They're 5 games under 500. D'Angelo Russell was a Laker draft pick back when they were really bad.
Yep.
I think Malik Beasley is a big-time shooter that is a hot shooter that can help them. They need shooting so bad. It's unreal. Patrick Beverly in crunch time taking threes. Derek, if you know the NBA, you know you don't want Patrick Beverly taking threes when you're down 3.
No.
I'm sorry, you don't want it. No. So the Lakers, that's how bad they need it. And Jared Vanderbilt, he's a good rebounder. He's better than Thomas Bryant. He could be a good backup, or he could be a good 4 if they put LeBron at the 3, kind of thing in their starting lineup. Jared Vanderbilt grabs rebounds. He can defend pretty well. He can live in the paint on the defensive end. I like him. I like Jared Vanderbilt. I think this makes the Lakers better, and that's what they sacrificed for that 2027 pick. So the Timberwolves, I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. You turn D'Angelo Russell into Mike Conley and 4 second-round picks. It's weird. I don't get it, but whatever. It's the Timberwolves. It's hard to. That was never a big 3 with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. That was always Anthony Edwards' team. Towns and D'Angelo Russell are just best buds, and it never worked. So Minnesota is just going to turn him into Mike Conley, and I think it kind of makes them around the same. I think there's nothing really different about them. Maybe a little bit more disciplined, better suited if they are in the play-in tournament. That Mike Conley will probably be a better point guard to have for them compared to a D'Angelo Russell. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't really change anything for Minnesota. But I do think the Lakers get better. They could. This obviously tells you that they're going to try for a play-in spot. That after with last night, LeBron getting Kareem's record, that he's not going to just take off most of the rest of the season because his foot is actually hurting him, which is true. But there was a lot of telling signs about Anthony Davis. He doesn't look happy in LA. He doesn't look happy.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that.
Hit his shot.
Yeah, yes.
And
I'm glad you brought that up.
He said after the game, I just want to win. And he knows he's not winning here. I don't think the Lakers should just go out and trade Anthony Davis. It would be insane if it happened, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now, these players will help him, but Anthony Davis has got to go look at the situation going, man, I really don't like how the season's going. I'm still pretty good, right? Like he's still been awesome.
Yeah, when he's by himself,
he looks unhappy.
When it's Anthony Davis and everybody else, he looks like the Anthony Davis we saw get traded, from New Orleans to the Lakers. He looks like that player. But when you pair him up with LeBron James, it's not working. And I think I might have said when the trade was made that it's not going to work because Davis is a centerpiece. He's not this playoff. He's not a playoff of type of player. He's a dude that you surround him with. He's not a sidekick. Davis is a guy who, if he's a centerpiece and you build a team around here, that team could be really good. Really good. And, every time you see the, anytime LeBron is out and Davis is in the lineup, he's a different basketball player. The team is different. The ball moves a lot better. It's what I've been saying for years. Good players do not play well around LeBron because they lose those touches that they need to be effective. And that's, when it's LeBron on the team, LeBron is the offense. He's a guy bringing the ball down. He's the point guard, but he plays a lot. He plays a lot of isolation basketball. You couldn't put him in a triangle. Jordan, for as great as he was as a scorer, his scoring came within a structured offensive set, and he still used his teammates. He still made every single person around him better. You didn't see a player that was good go to Chicago and not be good.
Yeah, talk to John Paxson, talk to Steve Kerr about hitting the biggest shots in those series. Some of those biggest shots in those series.
Look at B.J.
Jordan
Armstrong.
Obviously, did that.
B.J. Armstrong in Chicago, he made a lot of money from his years in Chicago when he became a free agent. He never was that same player outside of Chicago that he was in Chicago. And that's dude.
When he went to Charlotte in the documentary, they mentioned about how he played the Bulls in the playoffs.
Yeah.
B.J. Armstrong was like their best player at that time.
Yeah.
And that was fun to watch that part of it. But obviously Jordan showed him up after B.J. Armstrong talked a bunch of trash after game one. The moral of the story is you don't want to trash about Jordan, right?
No, you don't trash talk Jordan.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
I just think that and I noticed that too, man, and I'm glad you brought that up about AD. And if you look, there's another video shot of Russell Westbrook. He had the same body language AD had. Everybody else was jumping up, cheering like cheerleaders, and the two veteran guys like, man, listen, we still got a game to play. I don't care about this. Great. It's a great achievement, but dude, they literally stopped the game and had a ceremony that lasted about 15 minutes. I don't know much about momentum, but that'll kill all the momentum you have. You basically got to warm up all over again. So, unlike we're not in the locker room, we're not in the. But I've been saying for years, and I'm not gonna back off of this. The image LeBron paints in the media is team. But I honestly think he's an eye guy. He's an eye guy. Like behind closed scenes, he's an eye guy. If you listen to this dude talk, when he's doing like podcasts and all that, all he does is talk about him. I am the greatest player. If I break this record, I'm the greatest ever. If I do this, I'm the best at, no, bro. If he's doing that behind the scenes, he's probably doing that and these players see that, so they really don't give a crap about his little record he broke. The AD and Westbrook been around the block. They're at their highest point. They were very, 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 very good players. Top 10 players in the league, top 5 player in the league for Anthony Davis. They ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's a sour relationship. And what's funny is somebody on my friend list said that attitude, them being caught on film, not congratulating LeBron, is probably going to get them traded. And he was mainly talking about Westbrook and what happens the day after Westbrook gone. So it could have already been in the works, but this is the Lakers trying to fix a problem, and they want to point the finger at Westbrook. That's another player that I said he's a guy that has to have the ball in his hands to be effective. He's not a playoff player. He's not that dude. So he didn't mix well with LeBron in L.A. I think we all agreed that probably was going to end up being a bad trade because it's not a good fit. It wasn't a good fit. The AD trade obviously is showing itself. That's not a good fit. So, and for what it's all worth, D'Angelo Russell, now he's going to become a spot up dude. When he was in Minnesota, he was better when he had the ball in his hands and can make plays, off the dribble. So you think he's going to be that same player coming back to L.A.? No, he's not going to be that same player. They're not going anywhere, man. They're not. This whole season, once they realized the Lakers wasn't that good, it became all about LeBron James breaking his record. Forget the rest of the team. So, that's probably the attitude of AD, and they probably tired of it, bro. I would be because, we're all trying to win, and you see this dude, he's sitting on the bench afterwards. I don't know what happened. People saying he had a foot injury or something like that, but they're down 6 points. He's sitting on the bench, glorifying himself, and then he gets up and goes to the locker room before the game over with. It's still a 6-point lead. Like, that ain't the first time he done got up and left the bench in the middle of the game. And then the game before that, they was losing. He was looking like a sick puppy sitting on the bench. Wasn't I mean, come on, man. To me, I just call it like I said. And this dude, I actually think the players around him, the older, more mature players, get tired of him. They get tired of him because from what it looks like to me, this dude is a baby. I mean, he, when he cried about getting fouled in the Boston game, I ain't never seen no superstar player act like that. I ain't never seen no superstar player act like that. I've seen them get it, go up to the referees and get in their face and yell a little bit and shout about, missing the call. But I've never seen a superstar player, Hall of Fame player, on his hands and knees on the court like, the worst thing in the world just happened to him. Like, you still got an overtime to play and go win it in overtime. That's it. Go win it in overtime. Go to the huddle, tell your team I should have finished, and then, go win it in overtime. We're going to go win this in overtime. But instead, you're more concerned with the missed call, and it affected the team going into overtime. You still end up losing the game. So, to me, the longer, and I'm going to say it, the longer this dude is in the league, whoever team he's on is not going to be good. He's not going to be good because, number two, He's already said he wants to be the first father-son duo in the NBA. So he's gonna hang on for as long as it take for his son, the oldest, to enter the league. So now, whoever drafts him, you got to take on LeBron James too. He's destroying, and it sucks, but this is probably legitimate. The longer he play, he's going to continue to turn franchises upside down because it's all about him. We talked about what the Lakers gave up to bring this dude in. They wouldn't even be in this situation. And the only draft pick, they didn't have any first-round draft picks till 2027. You just gave that one up. So
to try to win now, to salvage a season that's not salvageable.
It's stupid. You just mortgage whatever future you had in that 2027 first-round pick to win now. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Is Kyrie that much better than Russell Westbrook? No. He's not. From a all-around standpoint, you'll get more out of Westbrook. And a better and less of a headache, as you said. So I don't know, man. People don't like to hear this, but we've been on this show for a long time talking about when LeBron goes to a team, when he leaves, they're in trouble. It's just so happened now the Lakers they're so dysfunctional, they're in trouble with him. And the two players you brought in to play around him, neither one of them happy. Neither one of them happy. I mean, for LeBron James to go and break this record, it's an achievement. But his own teammate sat down. The whole arena was standing. AD might be the only person that was sitting down, and he wasn't clapping. He was acting like it wasn't even going on. Bruh,
Westbrook wasn't even in the team huddle.
Exactly.
Before the game started. He didn't want to, and apparently he didn't want to. He took a long time to get subbed out in the second quarter. He took a long time getting off the floor during him getting out of the game, and him and Darvin Ham got into it so hard at halftime. It had to be, they were having a heated exchange.
Yep.
And then a day later, he gets traded.
This is the problem, man. And nobody's discrediting Darvin Ham as a head coach, but when you have AD, LeBron, and Russell Westbrook on the same team, you need a strong-minded, experienced head coach that's gonna know how to bring these dudes together to play. But what's probably happened is Ham is just doing what he think he's supposed to do. We cater to our best player. So everybody else is being, ignored, and it's like, bro, I'm not gonna even front. This year's version of LeBron James from a just sheer attitude standpoint, terrible. Never seen a player at his stature act the way he does. He acts like he can just do whatever he want to, and ain't nobody gonna do anything because I'm LeBron James. We got plenty of examples of it, so I ain't even got to sit up here, and nobody ain't gonna sit up, got to say, oh, you're reaching. I'm not reaching. Like, come on, man. And if AD and Russell Westbrook, their display yesterday didn't tell you everything you need to know about the state of the Lakers, you were not paying attention. You're not paying attention.
And I mean, LeBron has had this. He's had his ankle rolled a few times. He's had some foot problems. That actually is a thing.
Yeah, I know that. I mean,
I think that if they didn't make this trade, they were just gonna ride out the rest of the season. And I think that he wasn't gonna play as many. He was gonna take some games off because he got the record and his foot's probably bothering them. And I think that's a real thing. But now all of a sudden they just made something to try to win now, and he's part of the reason why they have to win now, and of the biggest reason why.
Yep.
So
Yep.
At the end of the day, he's going to have to play through it. He'll take some games off here and there. He's just going to have to play through it. So, breaking news: the Blazers did just trade Josh Hart to the New York Knicks for Cam Reddish and a protected first-round pick. Little weird because Cam Reddish is not very good. He's not really a rotational player.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And Josh Hart has been starting.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cam Reddish, bro. I haven't heard that dude's name in a while, so I knew he wasn't, in the rotation or anything like that. But hey, I guess, you got some type of value. The team was willing to trade for you.
He was actually trivia answer. He was actually in the Luka Doncic Trae Young trade on draft night. He was the other player that came with Trae Young
to Atlanta.
To Atlanta at the time, yeah.
At the
back
time,
when
yeah.
Atlanta actually tried to play him, and he wasn't very good.
Yep.
When they traded him to New York, and they found out pretty fast he's not very good. And now he's going to go to Portland, where I doubt he's going to get a lot of playing time at all, if any, because with them trading Josh Hart now, I think they're going to give a lot of minutes to Nasir Little. And, we still have Anthony Bennett All-Star Eric Gordon possibly will get traded by tomorrow. And we also have what's going to happen with the Raptors. That's going to be actually exciting to see because the Raptors have a lot of really good players. They're having a horrible season. There's a very underperforming season, and they got OG Anunoby, who I think can really nab a big bounty. And they have Fred VanVleet that could possibly get traded too. So that's going to be something to watch. Like, who's going to go out there and say, okay, we're buyers here, and we want OG Anunoby, or we want Fred VanVleet. So that's going to be pretty fun to see who actually goes for it. If the Warriors desperately need to say, hey, Curry's out, we really need to make the playoffs, we're not having a good season, they could offer Wiseman, they can offer Kuminga, they got players to entice Toronto. I don't think my opinion about James Wiseman. He is terrible.
Yeah.
But Kuminga still has some potential. He's had a really bad season. So the Raptors could still think, hey, maybe we'll give you Gary Trent. Maybe they'll do something. And I could see the Warriors calling up Toronto and say, hey, we're kind of scared. Steph's going to be out for a month. We need something, and we need a shot in the arm. And Toronto is the number one team you want to go call right now for that. So Atlanta is probably number two. They still got John Collins out there that, we don't know anything about his contract because the Hawks have not wanted to give him an extension. So I still think that Collins is very available if you want him. And, the Magic have some older expiring guys. They have a Gary Harris. They have a Terrence Ross. I mean, they have some players that potentially could help as like a seventh man, eighth man rotational dude on a playoff team. Boston can call him. Philly can call him. I mean, I still think the Magic could move one of those guys before the deadline tomorrow and see if the Magic can get a first out of them. I mean, out of either trade. If Gary Harris is still playing decent minutes, which he is right now, you can maybe get a protected first for him. So I think the Magic still has a couple guys they can unload, and teams like the Jazz. I mean, the Jazz are going to have $60+ million in salary cap available after they buy out Westbrook going into the. They're going to buy out Westbrook, and go with their cap for the rest of the season, and then this offseason. I mean, they just unloaded Mike Conley, and he had a couple of years left on his deal. So the Jazz are going to have all these picks. They're going to have pretty good young players, and they're going to have $60+ million in cap space going into the offseason. The Jazz are in really good shape. They're kind of like getting the Thunder a couple of years ago after the Paul George trade. So, there's still some stuff out there to happen. But Toronto is the number one team to look at right now, what they're going to do.
Yeah, and Toronto is, as you said, a lot of talent on that team, but just a really disappointing year, and something's gonna have to change, because just a few years ago you talking about a team that was playing for a conference championship, and
They won the title with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, won the title with Kawhi Leonard. That's not been that many years ago. Maybe 4 years ago?
3? Yeah,
Three?
3 to 4. I mean, that's when most of these players I just named off are still on that Toronto's team.
Yes,
They have Pascal Siakam still. They have Van Fleet. They have OG. I mean, they still have a pretty decent amount of those players still left.
Yeah, so it's kind of unacceptable for the struggle they had, because the team hadn't really turned over that much, since Kawhi left. So you would think they would be a lot, further along and a lot better than they are right now, but it's just not it's working out that way.
The biggest problem for the Raptors this year is they have a really good starting five. I mean, they have, they have those players plus Gary Trent plus a pretty decent center, and then their bench. Their bench is probably the worst in the league. I mean, they have Precious Achiuwa is probably one of their best bench players. They have Juancho Hernan-Gomez, aka Bo Cruz, for your Netflix viewers here. You got Thaddeus Young. I mean, it's not good. They're just a bunch of forwards. They have no shooters. They don't have enough guys that can pass and distribute the ball. And then they got mini Tom Thibodeau as their coach, and Nick Nurse. He's turned into a Tom Thibodeau. It's wild. The amount of forwards / centers they have on their team. Plus, I mean, their coach is a good coach. I think Nick Nurse is good, but he's turning into a Thibodeau. He overplays his starters too much. And they have Scotty Barnes. Rookie of the Year Scotty Barnes. So, to me, Toronto is the number one team to see about it getting blown up. They'll keep Siakam because he's their best player. But after that, I mean, they have great talent that is available out in the open market. And it would be crazy to see who gets them. Could the Heat do it? Could one of the top teams entice the Raptors enough? Even a Golden State? I mean, it would be pretty interesting if Golden State decided to say, you know what? These young players are not playing good this year. They still have some value. Let's go after a name. And I'm always curious to see if the Thunder will do anything. Of course, because they have all these picks, they have cap space, they have good contracts available. Lou Dort has underperformed this year, even though he just got that extension. We love Lou Dort; he's a great story, but maybe he's not part of our future. And all of a sudden, Lou Dort could be moved. So I would be interested to see what tomorrow brings. I don't think it's going to be quiet. I think we are going to see a lot of deals out there, and it will be fun.
Yeah. It's one of them things, man. You just hope that they could get it turned around there in Toronto, because the future looks so bright, and even with them, getting rid of Kawhi Leonard, they were still picking them to be, very competitive in the East as one of the top teams in that, in that conference. So, we'll see what happens, man. It's gonna be interesting. We still got a little bit ways before the deadline here, trade deadline.
San Antonio does have Jakob Poeltl if they want to move on from him, which I think he's a really good center. He can help somebody immediately, aka the Warriors. So I like Jakob Poeltl. I think he could be on the move because the Spurs are just looking to just dump salary and accumulate assets and try to tank for its trade deadline tomorrow. I have to say his name, Victor Wembanyama. He is the guy to go after. He is the prize. He is the thoroughbred. He is the franchise. This dude is absolutely incredible. He's insane. The best draft prospect I've ever seen in my life. Anybody, you name it. He was as a prospect, he was better than LeBron, better than KD. I as a prospect, and I think with Victor Wembanyama, these teams are going to fight so hard in the second half to lose as many games as possible to give themselves that 20 to 25% chance, or whatever the new lottery odds are now, in order to have a chance at Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, what do you think? What do you think about the Memphis Grizzlies' chances here, man? I mean, they, over the last maybe month or so, I'm not gonna say they've, taken a step back. They're still a really good basketball team, but they've lost some games here. And one thing that I don't like to see is a young team that's getting great and kind of getting, ahead of themselves or full of themselves that they are, so great, but they haven't yet to win anything.
No, Dylan Brooks is killing that for them, and I think John Morant does that a little bit too. At the same time, I think John Morant says the Grizzlies don't get any respect from anybody in the league, and the Grizzlies deserve more respect. And right now, I think the Grizzlies are really good. They're a top 5 team in the West. There's no doubt about it. They're better than the Mavericks. So far this season, they've been better than the Warriors. The Warriors playing really good and at full strength in a great series. But, the Suns are crumbling at the seams. I feel like at the moment too. If Durant gets traded somewhere, he could get traded to Toronto because of the assets Toronto even has. Phoenix, Chicago, it could happen. Chicago has some rumors out there about, they got Lonzo Ball. He hasn't played this year at all. Contracted, and if a team still wants him and still believes in Lonzo Ball, he's going to be attached in a trade for a bigger thing here. So, to me, I think I give it about a 30% chance Durant gets traded. I still think the Grizzlies are a top 5 team. They've always been kind of overconfident about themselves, thinking that nobody likes them or talks about them. But they're considered to be one of the best young teams in the league. That they've hit well in the draft. They play great defense. They have good scoring balance with that defense. They have a great coach in Taylor Jenkins. I think Memphis has done everything right when it comes and giving up all these future picks for that player. They've done everything right, and they are where they should be. They should be in that playoff contention of, they're not as good as the Nuggets. The Nuggets are still the best team in the West.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it in my mind that they're the best team in the West. They're the team to beat going into the playoffs. As long as Jokic, gets his hamstring injury figured out, which, should be fine for, of course, even after the All-Star break, he'll be fine. But nobody's going to Nugget now. It's not my mind about that.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, is Sean Naylor coming on tonight?
No. Sean Naylor is actually doing play-by-play or something like that for his school for basketball.
I
So
I saw that in there.
yeah. So I told him to drop the link in there. I was gonna give him a little airways a little bit with his commentary, but he didn't drop the link, so he don't want to be heard.
What do you think about the Grizzlies?
Hold on, you cut out. Say that again.
I was saying, what do you think of the Grizzlies?
I think the Grizzlies are a good team, but I think they've gotten too far ahead of themselves, and the heads are kind of blown up. They haven't accomplished anything, and once that happens, man, you get your reality check. So I don't see them going anywhere. To me, they're not there yet. They're not showing any maturity as a team that's, them growed up and developed together. They're still a little immature with some of their actions and some of the ways that they are acting.
Well, I don't really see the Grizzlies being active in the deadline. I don't think they're going to be doing much.
No.
They don't have any crazy bad contracts. I mean, if they really want to trade Valanciunas, they don't have Valanciunas. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible. They don't. I mean, if anybody really wants Steven Adams, I guess they'll be like, yeah, sure, we'll trade with Steven Adams. But at the end of the day, I don't really see the Grizzlies doing much. Maybe they take a salary dump. Maybe they get a pick or two out of it. I don't know. I just don't see the Grizzlies being very active. They're not going to be trading Dylan Brooks or anything like that, even though Dylan Brooks he's an interesting cat. But I think for now we're going to see the Grizzlies the way they are. I think Jaren Jackson is just an excellent player. John Morant, of course, is as good as it comes. And Desmond Bane is one of the most not talked about really good players in the league. And I think Desmond Bane is awesome. He's perfect for what the Grizzlies are and what they do, his role. And he couldn't ask for a better two guard that plays defense, that can shoot the lights out, and has good size in position. He's not a me-first type player. The dude can score over 20 points any given night. And I think Desmond Bane is a two-way player, and to pair him next to a John Morant, just like we talked about with a Curry, if you put Curry back in the 80s and 90s, you need to have another, a defensive-minded that can still score. And we talked about a Joe Dumars, and then, we're talking about a Desmond Bane here that I think is the perfect complement player next to a John Morant in the backcourt.
Yeah, I think that's the next phase for them. I mean, they have, pretty much everything you need, a combination of, big guards versus small guards, speed and quickness versus, just a methodical approach. So I think it's going to take some time for them to.
They need to make the Western Conference Finals in order for them to quote unquote, win something, right?
Yeah.
So they need to shock a team like obviously the Mavericks did with the Suns last year in order to get to the Western Conference Finals. The Grizzlies need to do that. Everyone thinks they're going to have to do that to the Warriors. I don't think so this year. I think the Nuggets is the team to beat. The Nuggets took a night off a couple of nights ago, rested 4 out of the 5 starters. And then last night they played the same team, Minnesota. They beat them by 40 before halftime. It was ridiculous. Like, this Nuggets team is so good. And so And my boy Bones Highland before the season, when I talked about how good I thought the Nuggets were going to be, my boy Bones Highland might be traded. So I guess I was wrong on that part. But this Nuggets team is too good. Aaron Gordon was not this player in Orlando, as you very well know, Derek. He was not this player, and he is playing probably his best year of his career this year for Denver. It's pretty surprising, given that he was only kind of like a one-minded offensive player that wasn't a good shooter, that got too many opportunities in Orlando, and it just didn't work. And all of a sudden he plays next to the best player in the NBA, and shockingly enough, he's really good this year. They got Michael Porter Jr., who's been a lights-out shooter, and Jamal Murray. Yeah, he's missed the last 2 games, but he's been on absolute tear in the last few weeks. Jamal Murray has. Yeah. So I'm telling you that this Denver team can bury you really fast if you don't watch out.
Yeah, they definitely seem like they got a great team. Not a whole lot of weaknesses, and that's what you want. It's just about them showing up and just putting the work in needed to ascend to that level. So.
When the Lakers are signing a Troy Brown Jr. or Thomas Bryant for the world, the Denver Nuggets signed a Bruce Brown. And, I know a lot of Rat Pack listeners might not know who Bruce Brown is, but he starts for the Nuggets. He's that all-around Swiss Army knife type of player that has matured a lot in the league. He was on Brooklyn, and he didn't really do too much. He was forgotten, I believe, in Dallas before he got a little bit more minutes on Brooklyn. But to be honest with you, I think he's been one of their glue guys to hold things together, and he's been an excellent source for this team this year. Bruce Brown has. I think he's a reason why, if guys are out some nights, he can come in there. He can handle. He can play defense. He can shoot a little bit. The guy's pretty good. And for a team like Denver to sign him, and it's really worked out for him. And I'm happy for Bruce Brown, and I'm happy for the Nuggets fans that, they got everything that they need to be able to win a title. I don't think they're going to win the title this year, but they have everything in place. They have the superstar, they have the sidekick with them, and they have 2 really good other players. So they have 4 pretty solid dudes that, a superstar, a really good sidekick, 2 solid dudes, and 1 glue guy. That's all you need in a decent enough bench. That's all you need. They have they have a good enough coach, Mike Malone. I believe the Nuggets can get out of the West, 100%.
Yeah, I would say they could as well. That's a really good, put together team over there. So I can see them, definitely see them coming out of the West.
So before I go, have you been happy with how the Magic has competed night in and night out? How the Magic have made a lot of games close? Jonathan Isaac has finally returned almost 3 years later. Gosh, I could have traveled the world on foot in that time span. By the time that Jonathan Isaac came back from his injury, and nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything. Like during his rehab for his knee, I think he did something to his foot pretty bad. That's the only news that anybody really knew about his rehab, about how long, why it took so long. The Magic didn't say a word about it. It was really strange, if you ask me. But he's back. I think this Magic team's competing every night. They're playing hard. Markelle Fultz is playing some good ball for them. Jalen Suggs, he hasn't been that great this year. Cole Anthony's been okay. Wendell Carter's been hurt, but when he does play, he's really good. Bol is tailing off, and Mo Bamba's an idiot. I'm sorry. Fighting Austin Rivers off the bench. What is he doing?
Yeah. What are you doing? But
I like this Magic team. I think they're improving. I think they're getting better.
Yeah.
I like their growth. They got a couple of deadline guys like I spoke about before. I think they're heading in the right direction. Just don't resign Mo Bamba. Maybe give Bol Bol a small contract and keep Wendell Carter. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to figure out your front court there.
Yeah, and you know, I'm happy with their progress, man. You know, I came into the season not expecting much anyway, so I just wanted them to play hard and get better. So, you know, that promise that's looking like that's what's going to happen. And they've, you know, for what it's worth, you know, had to deal with a lot during the course of this, you know, season. So, I think they're on the right track, though. They're on the right. They definitely are on the right track.
And with Isaac coming back, I mean, it doesn't complicate things because Banchero and Franz Wagner are better than him. But it does make things weird because where does he fit? He's only playing like 12 minutes a night right now from his recovery coming back. When he gets back to full strength, like I don't know where he fits. I mean, you can't put 3, 6, 8, 6, 9 guys together on the floor and expect it to work. I don't know. I think that's a strange situation because, I mean, I guess you could fit them all on there, right? You could have Markelle, Fultz, Suggs. Hopefully, if he outplays Cole Anthony over time, Isaac, Franz Wagner, Banchero, and then Wendell Carter. That's your starting 5. You know, once Isaac is fully healthy. I mean, it's good. It's not too bad, but yeah. I think Suggs is not the greatest shooter, and obviously Isaac's not a good shooter. So a little clunky. I don't know. I think Isaac, as much as a few years ago, he was their future. He was their best player a few years ago. Now all of a sudden he might be the odd man out.
Yep. Yeah, and you know, I just think again, you got a surplus of really good players at one of the major, you know, positions on the court, which is, you know, the big. So, if you need to, you can package that player up to, you know, upgrade or fill a need, and just prepare yourself for, you know, next year. Not sure they'll go anywhere, you know, this year, but that team is so young and they got a lot of time together. All they got to do is just keep them together, man, and I think they'll have one of the best teams.
As long as they're
league.
competing every night and they're trying, that's all you can ask for, I think, this year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a development. You know, they've told you 1,000 times, development. So, you know, that's that.
You know, they made the right trades. I mean,
Yeah.
You can't say that they didn't. They made the right trades from the past, from their past core, and I mean they got a lot for Vucevic. They got Wendell Carter and Franz Wagner in a pick that became Franz Wagner. I mean they got a lot for Vucevic, and they got a decent amount for Aaron Gordon too. Fournier they didn't really get as much because he's not as good, but you know they've done okay. They've done fine. They're doing, I think, what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, they picked Jalen Suggs. They picked Cole Anthony. I mean, they're taking a flyer on Bol Bol, and it's working for them. And it can prove that Bol Bol can play, you know, limited minutes and be productive. Where in Denver, you know, that's the wrong place for him. He would never get to play in Denver. So, to me, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think the Magic are. It's not bad. It's not bad.
No, it's not. Well, my man, as always, it's been a pleasure, my brother. A lot to talk about, a lot we discussed, and you know, hanging in there until I finish my opening rant was very much appreciated. I'm not done, but I'm done.
Of course.
I'm done for the day.
Course.
I'm done for the day at least.
No problem. No problem. I was happy to come in and give a little discussion, talk obviously a lot about the big topics that are happening, and I'll be in the chat tomorrow talking some deadline, and it'll be good.
Yep.
It'll be a good day.
Yep. All right, brother. Appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll catch you next time, man.
All right, you take care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Rat Pack Sports Show, Nicholas Lane, and normally, his segment was an hour and 40, hour and a half, and normally we don't go that long, but who cares? It's our network. We can do whatever we want to. We don't have to answer the people saying, "Hey, we gotta take this commercial break real quick to what they call that, show some love to our sponsors." So we don't have to do that because we run our own stuff. But I always appreciate him coming in and hanging out with us today to talk some NBA. So with that being said,